It's time for another Dice Tower review with Zee Garcia.
Hey folks, today I'm taking a look at an area control card-driven game called Bullfrogs. In Bullfrogs, you are using cards to deploy your frogs and your bullfrogs, trying to control lily pads by having more frogs there than your opponents, and then strategically jumping them off to other lily pads so that you control those as well. Let me show you how the game works, and then I'll tell you if I think this is a good card game. Here we go. To set up the game, you're going to put these 5 cards here that make up the log in this configuration on the table. You are going to give each player their own deck of cards, their own frogs, which include 2 of these bullfrogs, which are a slightly different model. And then each player can have a end game scoring cheat sheet there. And you are pretty much ready to begin. You are going to draw 3 cards, and off you go. I'm going to go over the scoring first, and then I will show you how a round would go in the game and what, how gameplay itself flows. So at the end of the game, for every card you have in your score pile, you are going to get as many victory points as it says on the bottom corner. These 4 that start on the table, for example, each give you 6 victory points, and then cards from the player's deck tell you on the bottom corner how many points they are. 4 victory points there. This one's also 4, 3 victory points, etc. Alright? Besides that, then you have each lily pad that is your own color. If you've scored it, it gives you 1 more point. Each frog that is of your color that is on the log at the end of the game is also going to be worth a point. If it is the bullfrog that is in there, that's worth 2 victory points. And then whoever wins the log itself, counting each frog as 1 victory point or 1 point of strength, and each bullfrog as 2 points of strength, then whoever controls the log is going to get 3 victory points. So that's how that works. So how does a turn actually play out? Okay, let's say I'm the red player. I have my 3 cards in my hand. Each card is going to have a certain number of spots for frogs, and up here in the top corner, a certain number of actions I can take when I play that card. So let's say, as the red player, I'm going to pick this card. I can play it anywhere I want to as long as it's orthogonally adjacent to at least 1 other card. So I'm going to put it right here. This gives me 3 actions. For an action, I can do one of 2 things. I can deploy or I can sabotage. Deploy means quite simply play out a frog, and I can pick a regular frog or a bullfrog anywhere in that line. Not on that card, but in that line or in that column. So I can decide to deploy 1 frog here for 1 action. I can put 1 here for another action. Be aware they cannot go directly on the log. And then for my 3rd action, I could put another 1 here, let's say. I could do that. That would be my 3 actions. Sabotage means if there's somebody else's frog already somewhere, and let's say this was here, then for 1 point I can sabotage, which means shove them over, move them around, okay? So I could do that as well. Once I've spent all the actions I'm allowed to spend, then I am going to draw a replacement card, and my turn is over unless scoring needs to happen. So how does scoring work? All right, let's give ourselves a couple more cards here and throw out a couple of frogs, and then I'll show you a scoring example. So let me get some bullfrogs in there, and I'll put 1 of these, and let's say another yellow. Alright, so let's say I played this, and my 3 actions were 1, 2, and then I put 1 here, and I filled that one up entirely, and now I score it. So we count up strength. Each frog is 1, each bullfrog is 2. My strength there is 1, 2, 3, 4. Red, or I guess I'm yellow in this example, 4. Red has 2, blue has 1, so yellow wins, and they're going to claim that card, okay? First thing, once that's done, and before I claim the card, then some frogs are going to leap off of this card. And the way that works is you have to fly off all of the frogs from the losing players first. And then if there are still spots you can go, than from the winning player. So losing player, so let's say I could do this, I could do this, I could do this, and now the winning player would jump off. The only place that's left, because it's, you can take a frog in each of the 4 directions, would be towards the log, which is good. I want to be on the log at the end of the game. And the bullfrogs are always after regular frogs. This is done. This frog comes back to me. This one's gone for the rest of the game. You do not get the bullfrogs back because they're too strong. I would claim this card. That's going to be 6 victory points at the end of the game. And now, since this card is detached, it would have to slide and be reattached. I get to choose where I slide it to reattach it. And so that's basically it. And then again, I draw a replacement card, assuming that was yellow player or red player, whatever. And the game continues. Game's going to keep on going until the players have played out all of their cards. And then at the end of the game, you are going to score as I showed you at the beginning. And that is pretty much the game. I think my favorite thing about Bullfrogs here is that it's a very straightforward design. The game is only about 30 minutes. It has that nice cadence of play a card, take a couple of actions, draw a card. And it does that well. It knows what it wants to be, and it achieves it. It's a good family-style game. There is no weird rules exceptions, no crazy powers, nothing like that. The game comes across like many little battles, which are also very interesting. I think it scales pretty well. I do prefer it with 2 and 3 players versus 4. I just find that to allow for a little more control, but it still works fine, and it's got a nice look to it. It's an attractive game. Now, I did have a couple of issues with the little frogs here. The models are nice, but they do have a very frail spot here in the front that represents the legs of the frogs. Some of them do chip there, and even if you put a little bit of pressure on them incorrectly or something, it will tear that little bit of wood off. So be careful with that. But it's not a big deal. It's not really that problematic. And the gameplay is neat. It's the scoring makes sense. The whole thing with the jumping off of the card after you scored it is nicely thematic. It helps you teach the game. And so overall, I like this one. Nothing revolutionary. Certainly nothing... doesn't bring anything new to the table we haven't seen before. It's an area control game, and so if you are a gamer through and through, this is not something that is going to open your eyes to a new world or anything like that. But I think it's got an accessible theme. I think it is a well done, clean design that for families, for maybe a gift to someone who is just getting into gaming, something like that, this is a solid recommendation for that. And so, thumbs up from me. Check this one out, folks, if you enjoy this style of game. That's Bullfrogs.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.